Hi everyone. If you see this, I obviously didn't manage to scare you away or bore you into sleep. Expanding Earth Model Part 3. Now I come to my personal favorite argument. Dinosaurs. As we know, they were pretty big. They could not have been that big had gravity on Earth been bigger in earlier times. More gravity means smaller creatures, unless the bones would have been very, very much more sturdy than we thought. And given what we know of their bones, they are pretty much like the bones we find in alligators and other such living fossils. And if we calculate how stable and sturdy such bones would have been, given the size we know from dinosaur bones, we end up with bones that could not have withstood a significantly higher gravity. So, we do know that there was no higher gravity in the last 270 million years. So, we revisited that there is a difficulty to find a mechanism, except for thermal expansion, and I will show the calculations for this as I promised. But we also said we cannot measure expansion now. So the question is, can we make any statement about expansion before now? Actually, as a matter of fact, we can. We can look at the moment of inertia. What mass is to linear acceleration, moment of inertia is to rotation. Okay, acceleration was not right. What mass is to linear movement, moment of inertia is to rotation. And basically, we all have experience with that phenomenon. If we turn like this, it's rather fast. If we turn like this, it's much slower. So in other words, if the object is bigger, it is more difficult to get it turning and spinning, and if it is smaller, you can make it spin faster. Actually, it is I equals integral over r square times dm. That is the formula. The mathematics would be pretty boring, but the moment of inertia of a sphere, and the Earth has a spherical shape, can be calculated rather well. It is, I think, r squared times m over the 5 or something like that. You can look that up in the Wikipedia, and while I don't trust Wikipedia completely, the scientific and mathematical information normally is valid. And if we look at the size of the Earth and its current rate of turning, we could calculate what rate of turning it would have had it been smaller in earlier times. And that does not measure up to what we know about the rate of rotation in earlier times. There is that discipline called paleomagnetism. I hope I pronounced that one right. Basically, we measure from old, deeply buried iron ores or magnetic stones and minerals their magnetic orientation, and therefore we can say how the magnetic field of the Earth was in former times. By some pretty nifty calculations, you can find out the rotational rate of the Earth. And we see that the Earth once had a different rotational rate than it has now. But that does not measure up to what would be needed for an expanding Earth model. So, the main things that act, or that modern science has against the expanding Earth model, is we cannot measure such an expansion now. What we know about the past of the Earth, especially calculations about the moment of inertia, just doesn't add up to an expanding Earth model, and we have a lack of a valid mechanism how such growth would have taken place. The only possible mechanisms that are in accordance with science would be thermal expansion and slow buildup of mass by downraining debris. But again, that doesn't match, as we have said, with the moment of inertia calculations. Yet there are many unknowns, so we cannot completely outrule the model. But Occam's razor normally suggests to take the easier model that uses less assumptions. And the easier model using less assumptions, covering more questions, currently is the plate tectonics model. Now, I know that these 3 movies so far are not very famous. I apologize to all my physicist colleagues. I have tried to present this in a way that is not totally like a mathematics and physics lecture. And to the scientifically minded, I also apologize. I wanted to give an overview. And for those of you who now think that I'm a total moron, having reviewed those videos that I just made, I have half the tendency to agree. This is not exactly Hall of Fame stuff, but it's good for the moment going. You may still hope that when I present my presentations, it becomes better. So far for this, thank you for listening. One part is missing, the part where I actually present the calculations. Thank you. Be blessed. Stay safe. And yeah, I'm a martial artist. Practice hard.